War Eagle, War Rapport family. I'm your host, C-Dub, and we have a special treat for you guys tonight. Christian Clemente comes on to join us while we discuss the latest surrounding Auburn football. We're going to talk about a few recent commitments we've had, and I'm sure you guys cannot wait to join in on this discussion. So, guys, get ready, get your weight up, because tonight we enter the war room.
You are now listening to the War Report. Wednesday night War Room. Brought to you by Auburn Sports.com. Ike Jones. B. Will. C. Doe. Mike G. Let's go!
War Eagle, Auburn family, thanks again for tuning into the latest and greatest Wednesday Night War Room, brought to you in partnership by our good friends at auburnsports.com. Shout out to JG Tate and the good fellas over there. You need information, please be sure to check them out for your latest in terms of recruiting and all information regarding Auburn athletics. And shout outs to the War Report family. You guys are filing in, doing the necessary, smashing that like button, dropping the War Eagle in the comment section. We appreciate you. And listen, for those of you who are invested in building this community, we need your help. One of the things that you can do to help us grow this community is share the video, guys. Please be sure to share it on your social media using hashtag #GetYourWeightUp. This is that time of the year where people are looking, searching high and low for Auburn content. Be the plug for them. Help those guys out. Share that video. Help us to grow this thing so it can continue to be awesome. Now, before we get into the show, we have a few announcements, and that's where Mike G comes in.
Hey, listen, if you don't know by now, become an insider. This is a wonderful life goal to have, or at least a season goal, or maybe just, a short-term goal. Either way, become an insider. We've got lots of great content for you guys coming. Appreciate everybody who's been commenting on every video, and you guys have been awesome. And if you didn't know, and you're not an insider, we are giving away tickets to our insiders to the ASU game. Now, last week, we gave away tickets. But those were donated by one of our benefactors, Walt. So we appreciate Walt for giving us. But we still got 2 more tickets to give away. This raffle will be for insiders only. So if you're an insider, we will announce on next week's Wednesday Night War Room who wins the tickets for the ASU game. So become an insider so you can get access to 2 tickets to the ASU game. It's going to be the second game of the Brian Harsin era, guys. You don't want to miss it. You can go on us. Last but not least, we are sponsored by the Lee County Humane Society, and we are raising money for them, guys. So this is the good that we've chosen to put back into the world. You guys have heard the stories of our rescue pups. We want to help the Lee County Humane Society and their mission to save more puppies. So help us save puppies. I've pinned the link to the top of the chat, but you can also find that link in the About section of our YouTube channel. Go there, give money, save a puppy, feel good about yourself.
Thanks. Appreciate that. Christian, how are you, man?
I'm good. I'm really happy to be on the show. How are you guys doing?
We're doing well. I think things are picking up for you guys over there. I'm sure.
They are. It's been a little quiet. It was very quiet over the summer. Little quiet the past couple of days, with the whole COVID situation with Auburn football, but it's really starting to ramp up now. We're getting really close to football season, getting pretty excited about it.
Good deal. Well, speaking of COVID, Harsin had a Zoom call with the press, and we can go ahead and get into that. We're not going to waste any time. Had a few statements that he made regarding his current status. As we know, Derek Mason did return this week and made some comments via social media about his sentiments towards COVID. And Harsin made some statements as well addressing the media. And Some of the things that he mentioned is that he is scheduled to return next Monday, barring any type of setbacks. He is expected to be back in the football complex working with the team in preparation starting Monday. So that's good to hear there. He made some statements in terms of him not being anti-vaccine. Some very definitive statements there. He says he fully supports players' decision to get vaccinated and getting reliable data to players. And he also went on to mention that they provided an open platform for experts to present information about the vaccine to the players as well as staff. He also made a definitive statement in terms of addressing people's criticism of him not taking an active lead in encouraging or saying that definitively that people need to be vaccinated. He says that he can't mandate or won't mandate vaccinations to players according to Alabama law. And he also feels that Auburn can still reach the mandated threshold laid out by the SEC. He was asked later on in the Zoom call about providing a percentage of guys vaccinated. He did not have those numbers, and I think being calculated, he saw fit to not mention that. He did allude that he could provide that in the future, but currently we don't have those numbers. So that's that. Just want to get you guys, we talked a little bit about this and we don't have to stay there long, but Christian, what has been kind of your, finger on the pulse of the program, people's ideals? What do you think led to Harsin having to address this first and foremost, in your opinion?
Yeah, well, you look at some of the social media reactions, there were some columns out there. There were rumors, is he anti-vaccine, whatnot. He straight up addressed that, like you said. He clearly came out and said, I'm not anti-vaccine. He talked about stuff that we knew, that the doctors did come in and whatnot. I was pretty surprised to say that he thought they could still reach that 85% threshold. I don't think that's a number they can hit by the time the season starts, because that is 10 days away or whatever. But, maybe a couple weeks into the season, they can get to that number. I think they're still pretty far off from that threshold. So they've got some work to do, but he did say they are improving. So
good deal. Good deal. I didn't know if Mike B, you had any thoughts about what you heard today. None.
No. Listen, happy he's okay. Welcome back. Happy Derek Mason's okay as well too. So first and foremost, to anybody who contracts it, I hope that they recover and that there are no long-term effects from that. So it's time to turn the focus back to football, and hopefully we can keep it on football as the season goes on.
Brian Harsin did talk about the second scrimmage, and he added a little detail about that. And some of the things that I definitely want to jump in on this is he said that the first team offense actually did a pretty good job on third down conversions. Now, a little note here, last year, Auburn was around the 45% on third down conversions last year. Now, we know this is just one scrimmage, but that sounds encouraging when you hear the numbers. And that was one of the things that he led with, talking about the offense. B. Will, what are your thoughts on that, man?
Well, him focusing on third down conversion means he knows how bad we were at it previously. So that's good. And the reports that we get from scrimmages, right? So we hear, hey, this guy made a play, because we don't get to see it. Very few people get to see it. So we hear reports and we hear who messed up, who flashed, who had a really good play here or there. But we didn't know the circumstances that they put them in. So what it sounds like with him making those comments is that they are putting them in these situations that they are not good at, which is what we kind of thought, specifically to see if they're learning and getting better at it. And he mentioned actually having a better view, because I guess they had like a bird's eye view camera or drone or whatever it was that allows him to see more of what's going on each play, more than he can see on the ground. So if he was encouraged, he knows the setup, he knows whatever script they gave, the offense and defense to kind of put them in a situation where they had to show something. And if he's pleased with that progress, then, far be it for us who are not inside those rooms and doing all that scripting to make a judgment that it was a terrible scrimmage. If he's pleased with it, then I'm pleased with it. And one thing that we are kind of finding out about Harsin is that he will not mince words. He's just going to say what he's actually thinking. And if it was a bad practice or a bad scrimmage, I actually kind of have confidence that he would have said that. So if he's not saying that, then that gives me the idea that, okay, you're cool with it. I'm cool with it. I like it.
Christian, talk to me about this. This is one of the bugaboos last year for Auburn, and we know that the strength of Auburn the past few years has been the defense. Well, you don't want that defense living on the field throughout the game because you know as the game goes on, they have a tendency to wear out. So talk to me about the emphasis on third down conversions as it pertains to Brian Harsin's plan to play a little bit of ball control and utilize the downhill running attack. How critical is it to win third down, in your opinion, with this Auburn offense?
Yeah, I think it's huge. And I would say even looking at, first and second down, they really want to get to third and short because they want to rely on Tank Bigsby, Sean Shivers, Jarquez Hunter, those guys where they're going to be really good, especially when you look at that offensive line. They're better at run blocking. They're not quite up there pass blocking yet. So you want to make life as easy as possible for Bo Nix, and getting to the third and short will do that. Like you touched on, completing third downs, those are obviously huge. I mean, this defense is really, really good, but it can only hold up for so long. So completing those third downs and being successful there will be huge for Auburn this year.
Talk to me, Mike G. What goes on in your mind when you hear that coming from Brian Harsin as he talks about this second scrimmage?
Yeah, to be clear, I don't believe a damn thing he says in any of these press conferences really as it concerns to play and who's doing what. All that's going to matter is what he puts out on the field. So I'll be watching that. In terms of what he talked about at third down, again, there has been some situational, let's put these guys in this situation. I think that these guys looked at the data, they looked at the stats, they looked at the numbers, and they looked at the film and said, this is where we need to get better. So you start putting these guys in these situational positions, which isn't unusual. It's not groundbreaking. It's just something that coaches do. And he's been stressing, especially for the QB position, decision-making, right? So here's what happens. If you're not great on third down, you put your QB in these situational things where he has to work on that decision making. And to Christian's point, the decisions that have to be made in third and short versus 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10 are a lot easier. So they want to stay out of that because you know what? The decision to hand the ball to Tank Bigsby on 3rd and 2 is a lot easier than the decision to go through multiple reads, figure out whether to run or keep it or do whatever on 3rd and 8. We found ourselves in a lot of 3rd and 8s last year. And, for a struggling offensive line, now I don't know if they'll be struggling when the season starts, but they struggled in pass protection last year. You got to believe the defenses are going to pin their ears and come after them if we are in too many of those 3rd and 8s. So that's going to be job number one is win first and second down and stay out of 3rd and long, right? Whatever that takes. So, right. It's going to take balance. We've heard a lot about how his offense is supposed to be multiple. Well, what that means is you have to throw and pass. I expect to see an improved short passing game that will substitute for a running game at times. Yeah. We need to see receivers catch those balls and take advantage of those opportunities. And we need the quarterbacks to put the ball on the money. So these athletes can use their athletic ability to be able to make yards after the catch and not expend all their energy just trying to catch it. So, we have a for-the record dropping this week that talks about on-target percentage. It's been poor. And so if you're an insider, that'll drop for you tomorrow. You can check that out. I'll be interested to hear everybody's feedback on that segment. But I just think that he's putting these guys in situations where, again, he's listened to what this man is saying. He's harped on decision making, and he's put them in situations where they have to actively use their brain to make better decisions than they have been making. That goes for Bo as much as it goes for Finley, because we saw what he did in some of those situations as well, too. Yeah. So this is a stress test for the whole offense.
Shout out to Dr. Doom. We see you, man. We appreciate the super chat.
Hey,
Hashtag save the pups. Most definitely. And also, didn't get a chance to type it. I don't know if anyone else did, but welcome Lou Breeze as a new member to the War Report family. Thank you, good sir. I saw everyone in the comments welcoming him. Got a question here from Stephen Riley. What do you think about reports of tight ends dropping passes? The thought or the belief was that would actually be the strength there. Has it been what has been kind of the intel coming out of? I know you haven't had a chance to partake in the scrimmages, but what has been kind of the information you've been getting about the tight ends, Christian?
Yeah, the tight ends are out there. There's one on every single play. And that is partially because of the pass blocking, which has been less than stellar. And part of that has been because the offensive line hasn't really all been there because of injuries and COVID issues and whatnot. I think that's starting to solidify now, but they've really been using a tight end, at least one on every play, two on a fair amount of plays. I haven't heard too much about difficulties with drops. I have heard some here and there, and, the little viewing windows that we got to go to for some of the fall camp, I did see some issues with some drops from some of the tight ends, but overall, I don't think it's a situation where, for the past however many years we've heard, oh, the tight ends are going to be more involved this year. I promise you, they're actually going to be more involved this year. They're out there all the time. So
that's encouraging to hear, man. We have way too many talented tight ends for us not to have utilized them in the past. So that's encouraging to hear that there's at least one on every play. One of the things that Harsin also mentioned was he named permanent captains for the season. One of them wasn't surprising, Owen Papo, but the other was kind of a heartwarming story. Chandler Wooten, who actually sat out last year during 2020 because of COVID. Harsin talked about him. He talked about the first time he met him, and he basically told him, I can lead. And to see that, fast forward to now, him being named a permanent captain for the season is pretty heartwarming, pretty good, pretty cool. We know that the linebacker corps is going to be one of the deeper positions. So much has been made about Papo. Much has been made about McClain, rightfully so. But to hear Wooten be named one of the captains is encouraging. And it kind of, JG Tate kind of alluded to this. He mentioned it kind of tells you what kind of makeup we got in this team in terms of where the leadership is coming from with this team. So B, Will, talk to me again about your thoughts with Wooten being named the captains, the two captains being linebackers on the defensive side of the ball.
Wooten, there was a piece that ran in AL.com this summer, or actually earlier this spring, about Wooten, everything he went through while he was sitting out that season. His child was born, his girlfriend was pregnant, and he had some very personal reasons to sit out. With what was unknown about COVID at the time, there was a lot to be concerned about, especially for people who were, immunocompromised or, pregnant, a lot of things like that. So I think every coach will have to make a decision on players who chose to sit out. There were some NFL players who opted out, and the way football is, and this is football from Pee Wee up through the NFL, they want you to be there. They want you to be available. They want you to be committed 1,000%. And for somebody to sit out, it's not that it doesn't make sense. It's that there's a lot of people who did make that decision. So Harsin had some concerns about why he made that decision. They talked about it. He committed to football. He said he was always committed, that he was able, and he said he was willing to work and show that he was a leader, that he was a football player, a dependable football player. And if he impressed Brian Harsin, who by all reports, I think we're all getting the picture clear here, he's a hard ass. So if Harsin is convinced, I'm convinced. I don't know why any of us, if there's one person that you have to convince to get, really it was the team voted. So you don't have to convince the coach, but you kind of do, especially this coach, because this was a brand new regime. This was a brand new attitude. So if you can get up to snuff on his scale, then you're good. And he did. So I think that's a great story. Just not just a story, but we had heard it about Chandler Wooten's potential before the season. I mean, we were looking forward to what he was going to do last year. Can you imagine if he was there to plug that middle when Kenny Britt got hurt? I mean, yeah, we think about what that would have been like. knew the kid had potential. So we're kind of getting to see it now. And I think it tells us with 2 defensive players being captains, I am simultaneously even more convinced the defense is going to be great and worried about the offense at the exact same time. I mean, QBs usually get that mantle no problem. If they've been there a year, they get it no problem. So I'm not saying that the team doesn't believe in Bo as a starter, even though we know he's a starter. But man, like, come on, man. Like, how many teams are you going to be a 2-year starter and with a max of 4 years to play, and you're going to year 3 and you're not the captain? You touch the ball more than anybody. That scares me a little bit. And that's not just shade on Bo. Like, that scares me. I know that scares y'all. Y'all don't have to admit it out loud, but I know you're worried that he didn't get that nod. But I do believe in the defense now. That my mind is made up. I am pumping sunshine. I don't have shades right now, but I'm pumping as much sunshine as possible as shines off of Mike's gleaming white, newly braced up teeth.
Yeah.
I am pumping sunshine about the defense.
I'm braced.
Christian, I got a question for you, and shout out to James Barnett. We got some great questions in the comments, man. We'll try to get to them as best we can. But he mentioning Cole Kublet's comments on the offensive line, and I guess he's addressing, or he's mentioning his concerns. He made it seem as if we didn't have talent on offense, and also thought that other SEC teams had a better secondary. Let's tackle this a little bit piece by piece, because Harsin did talk about the O-line, right? And he kind of mentioned or laid out kind of who the 2 deep was. Left tackle, Austin Troxell is starting. Zaire is behind him. Brandon Council, left guard. Behind him is Alec Jackson. Nick Brahms is the starting center. Irvin is behind him. Keandre Jones at right guard. Tayshawn Manning was right behind him. He also mentioned Stutz, who could either play either guard position. He mentioned right tackle Brodarius Ham and Brendan Coffey backing him up. So there's been concerns about this position, and we know there's been a lot of movement in fall camp. There were some guys who were held out of scrimmages, and it's a much maligned group. We know what they can do in run blocking, but that has not been the concern for this group. It's been pass pro. So what do you make of the offensive line, Christian, 10 days out from the start of the season? Where do you see them being? Have they taken a step forward? Do the coaches have a good feel for who their 5 are? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so I do think the coaches do have a good feel for where they're 5 at. It's exactly those starters that you just listed. Harsin said they're still moving people around a little bit. I think that's the best combination that they really need to roll with, and I think that's probably what you'll see against Akron. As for taking a step forward, I don't think they have quite yet. Part of that's not their fault. I mentioned earlier, some injuries, some COVID issues. And they did do that cross training where, the tackles would play a little guard and vice versa. People would move around a little bit. These guys haven't really had a ton of time in fall camp to really sit at one spot and practice there. Now they do have that time, now that they really have kind of solidified where they like guys. So I do think it is still possible that they can take at least a little bit of a step forward before the Akron game. But from what we've heard in scrimmages and practice so far, it's been that defensive line in the front 7 really dominating the offensive line so far, which, I do think that defensive line is really good, but what does it say about this offensive line?
Yeah, and it's kind of hard to get a read on that. Is the O-line really bad, or is the D-line good? I think the D-line is just really good, and I'm hoping that because they're good, that the Auburn's O-line, once they meet a D-line like a Georgia or a Bama, that won't be their first time getting hit in the mouth, hopefully. Mike G, what have been your thoughts on terms of these rotations and along the offensive line, and do you see them hopefully taking advantage of these first 2 games to really get some confidence?
Listen, man, the offensive line just is what it is going into the season. They'll either come together or they won't as the season progresses. I think that Harsin is settling into that reality right now. So, he's turned his defense loose on them. and competition is up, and there's no false sense of security about where our offense is at going into the season this year. Right. So that drug that Gus would feed us every preseason about where we were at with the team. And, we had the greatest quarterback battle in the history of camp and, all that stuff. No, there are no delusions there. We know that the guy behind center is going to have to make good decisions and quick decisions behind this offensive line. We're going to have to run the ball, and the scheme is going to have to cover them some. So I'm just going to be watching to see how they scheme around our deficiencies. I've never been as bad down on this offensive line as a lot of people have been. I just felt like slow developing run play action hurt them. It required them to hold blocks for longer than is normal in the SEC, and then throw in bad route trees and a quarterback who can't go through his reads fast enough. And it was always going to be a disaster for this offensive line. That's it. But that was normal over the last 8 years. Now, hear me out. Under Gus Malzahn, we have never had a good pass protecting offensive line. Never. What we've had a couple quarterbacks that were really good at escaping pressure and throwing on the run. And then when we got a pocket passer in there, he got sacked 35 times in a year where we came up one game short of the playoff. It's never been good at pass pro, guys. So in year one, do I expect Brian Harsin to be able to turn around literally what is 8 years of that? No, man. I expect him to scheme around it somehow. You've got athletes, find a way to get them the ball in space, and let's stop blaming all our problems on the offensive line. 1 year turnarounds. I mean, it's just so hard. There's only a couple times in Auburn history where I can remember. I remember under Tuberville 1 year, I think it was 2006. They pulled all the starters on the offensive line. And they did it versus Florida. It was Florida on the road. I don't know if anybody remembers this. And they threw in a whole new line because they were just playing so bad, comprised of like freshmen and sophomores, I think. It's just very unusual to see a huge turnaround from a group that, is one of the most experienced returning in the SEC this year. These guys just they are what they are. I hope I'm wrong. I hope the strength and conditioning program kind of beefed them up a little bit so that they're at least a little stronger. But in terms of understanding, maybe they understand the game and their assignments a little better. I thought that Herb Hand set us back. There were just some things that just did not go on great at offensive line over the last few years. So I hope that they do better, right? But first and foremost, I hope the scheme helps them. And I hope the quarterback helps them, because we talk a lot about how hard it is for a quarterback behind a bad offensive line, but we very rarely talk about how hard it is for an offensive line behind a quarterback that has no feel for the pocket and holds on to the ball too long. Yeah. Nobody talks about that, right? So I'm going to throw these guys a bone back.
I'm pretty sure we talk about that.
I talk about it. But, I just think this thing about the offensive line, everybody just needs to stop hoping that they turn into some incredible unit. I think they've kind of peaked out, and what we hope is they understand. They
could be serviceable.
Yeah, I mean,
they could be serviceable.
They were serviceable last year. The scheme hurt them. There were other factors around them hurting them, and so this year, I think Harsin knows. I think he understands where this offensive line is at, and you will not see the quarterback holding on to the ball very long behind this offensive line when he drops back to throw. Now, they're going to have to do it sometimes. It's not like they couldn't pass protect at all last year. They had moments where they formed perfect pockets and gave us plenty of time to throw, and we still couldn't complete the pass. Either a drop, right, between Seth and Schwartz last year, they had 14 drops. Some of those were on perfectly formed pockets by this offensive line. So the problem, I mean, there was enough blame to go around there. I just think, I'm over it. I'm over the talk about the offensive line. because they just are what they are. What else around them can we fix to help them out just a little bit? And if at the end of the season they turn into somehow one of the best units in the league, somehow a top 3 or 4 unit in the league, it will be because the scheme helped them there. You know, that's all I'm saying. And for reference, the best quarterbacks in our league last year had the ball out of their hands in 2.69 seconds or less. Our quarterback had the ball in his hand for 2.89 seconds on average. So you don't need a ton of time to throw the ball. You need a better scheme. You need wide receivers running better routes, right? And you need to stop calling these plays that everybody just knows what they are. Right. You know, like just a scheme. It's all scheme.
Shout out to Walt Taylor in honor of Corey. Since Corey isn't here, Virginia definitely double dribbled.
Yeah,
we acknowledge that every time, and it's worth acknowledging for the rest of our time here at the War Rapport. Is absolutely facts. Let's talk about, since we all talked out about O-line, let's talk about the QB battle. And Harson's basically said that Bo and TJ are at the top, with Bo basically getting the first team. He's the first to go out, which we pretty much knew that was the case after the second scrimmage. He does keep talking about Demetrius Davis. He's been very impressed with him. He basically says all 3 QBs have had a great camp. Mike G may disagree with that, but Demetrius Davis has definitely, from all accounts, he's talked about him both times. So that says a lot about what Demetrius Davis has done and the leap he's made since spring ball. Christian, can you talk about a little bit about the QB race and just some insights there?
Yeah, so I think it's tightening up a little bit. You know, we had all kind of come to the conclusion that it was going to be Bo, and Bo will start the Akron game. I still personally believe that, but I do think TJ is kind of making a move up because of his better play and Bo's lackluster play. Everything we've heard in camp is that he's had some consistency issues. He hasn't been overly accurate. He just looks maybe a little bit lost back there in the pocket at times and scrambling around a little bit. So I personally think, yeah, I don't know exactly what to believe about that with Bo, but I'm not sold on Bo being the guy all year this year. I do think the Akron game, he'll start it and he'll be the guy, but I could see a move where TJ Finley comes in. I would like to say for TJ Finley, though, I don't know how well he's going to do at Auburn this year. And that's only because he's a statue of a quarterback. He loves to sit in the pocket. This offensive line, we just talked about him a little bit. I don't know if they'll give him quite enough time that he needs back there. Bo, at least he can run out, create a little bit of extra time on the play. TJ can't really do that. And as for Demetrius, he has had a fantastic camp by all means.
Okay. So what you're saying, Christian, is that Demetrius Davis is the future?
That's probably – I think TJ could do very well at Auburn. I think they need actual offensive tackles for him to do very well at Auburn. And I don't really think they have any of those right now. So in a game atmosphere, I think Demetrius really could be that guy. He's one of those quarterbacks that in practice, he might not look the absolute best, but you just get him in a game and he's going to ball. And Brian Harsin said, he has gamesmanship. He just looks good out there. So I think he's one of those guys. He certainly could be the future at Auburn.
I have another question, Christian. How do you, based on what you said, how do you justify what Harsin is saying publicly about the quarterback battle with your statements on how the quarterback battle has looked? Because I've heard some different things about TJ as well too. At times he has not looked great. What do we believe here? Because you just said something very different than what our coach is saying.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of coach speak. I think honestly, you're not going to probably publicly come out and say this guy's struggled with this guy's struggled with that, right, whatever it may be. But digging into some intel that we've gotten, both guys have struggled. I think Bo has struggled more than TJ. I think TJ learning this new offense a little bit. It took him some time, and he is still having some issues. But he seems to be improving a little bit more, while Bo is kind of holding steady and still having some of the same issues. So,
Christian, can you clear something up for us too?
Mm-hmm.
In the second scrimmage, was it 2 picks or 3 picks?
I believe it was 2 interceptions for Bo in the second scrimmage.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I just I was just asking because it seemed like there's a lot of confusion in the reporting on that, whether it was 2 or 3.
No, and it was the same for the first scrimmage as well. I think Bo has had a pair of picks in each scrimmage so far. So,
how much of the struggles would you say most of it has just been TJ just trying to figure out what's going on in the offense this fall camp? Because, I mean, he didn't go through spring. He's still learning on the fly. How much of his struggles you believe have been attributed to just him learning the offense?
You know, it's tough to say without really watching him. But I think that's certainly a fair part of it. It might not be all of it, but
right.
I think that's probably a majority of the issues for TJ. And I think the other issue would just be that he is a very pocket pass heavy quarterback. He doesn't like to move at all. So once the defensive line really crashes in on him, it gets a lot more difficult. But I think the offense, just adjusting to that new offense, is probably the biggest issue for TJ so far.
B. Will, you got any points to make about this QB race? Hearing that it's tightening up?
I mean, as I just gave Harsin credit for being a straight shooter, but I agree. I think it was a little bit of coach speak in there about Bo. And I think that's because he doesn't want to cast doubt on, you don't want to say, hey, this guy has performed the worst and then trot him out there as your starter. So you give him credit for whatever improvement you do see happening. Still project some confidence in him or his ability to continue to improve, which Harsin has done. But if the reports are to be believed, and we all have our different sources, we have a way of knowing who threw what and how it looked when it happened and how everybody there felt about it. I don't think, and this is something that we talk about all the time, and Mike G especially, we are hoping that now we have a coach that says, son, that's not good enough. Go sit down. Other guy, you're in. And what this camp has demonstrated for me is that we don't have a starter right now that is far and away beyond reproach. Like we don't have a guy it's okay that you threw that pick. I know you. Like there's no 2016 or 2016 Deshaun Watson. That guy's not there. Somebody who's done it and looked phenomenal all the time. So if he does goof up some, you're comfortable leaving him out there because you know he can do it. We don't have a guy like that. So nobody's got a free pass. The only person on this team who seems to have a free pass is Tank Bigsby. And I'm okay with that one because he's phenomenal. But I appreciate the coach speak because you have to not kill the kid publicly. And I think Gus may have done this too much, is not kill his confidence. So you don't sit him, you don't pull him when he's not playing well enough, but he may have confidence and he may want to give this guy some motivation going into the season. But I have confidence that Coach Harsin won't let a poor playing quarterback, either one of them, continue to play poorly and cost us games. And so no matter who is actually going to be the first guy out, I actually think for the first time ever, the first guy out this season is inconsequential. I don't think it matters. I think you got another scrimmage next Friday. Wow, we are 10 days away. Wow, that's crazy. Next Saturday. You got one more scrimmage after that against Alabama State. And then Penn State is going to be it, man. That's going to be whoever gets that start's best shot. Like that's your shot to prove that you learned the lessons they were trying to teach you in camp and that they were trying to get you to demonstrate for the first 2 games. And if that's Bo and he doesn't show improve, I actually think, yeah, we could see a change here.
Well, we'll keep our eyes on that as that unfolds. Well, as B says, we're just 10 days away from the season starting. And guys, you are watching the Wednesday Night War Room, brought to you in partnership by AuburnSports.com. Listen, those guys are great sources of information for all things recruiting and information regarding the Auburn football program, as well as Auburn athletics. Be sure to check them out for your info. Also, shout out to Luke McDonald for becoming a new member. Welcome to the family.
Welcome
Kendall
in.
Jackson, welcome as well.
Welcome,
You
Kendall.
guys won't regret it because there are some definite benefits to being a member of the War Rapport family. In fact, Mike G can fill you in on what those benefits are. Take it away, sir.
Oh, you see those little green boxes? It means they became insiders. They decided to upgrade their status in life. You can too. $5.99. Hit the join button on our front page. We're happy. We're building this community. It's going to be really fun for insiders as the season starts. We've got a game day experience that will be pregame. It will be halftime and post game, and you know what? We might surprise y'all with some stuff live from the stadium. It's going to be really fun. That's going to be insider only, so just join up. We're giving away tickets to the ASU game. We gave away tickets to the Akron game. We gave away tickets to the ASU game, and now we're giving away more tickets to the ASU game. So become an insider. We're going to announce the winner of our second set of ASU tickets next Wednesday. I neglected to mention at the top of the broadcast, but we are giving away a mug tonight. Now, let me tell you, you guys are so used to dropping Get Your Weight Up in the comments that there's already 63 of you in here. So hashtag Get Your Weight Up to get into this, and we're going to raffle this off in about 20 minutes. So you want to get in on that. Our merch store is live. You can find this link in the About section of our YouTube channel to get your War Rapport merch on. We are supporting the Lee County Humane Society. You guys know the drill. 50 cents on every dollar goes to help us, help them in their mission to save puppies. A shout out to our sponsors, BUSR. We got a segment called Betting with B Will. This is going to be an insider thing as well, too. He's going to give you guys a little sneak peek, non-insiders, but insiders are getting the scoop. So check out Betting with B Will and then head over to BUSR to place your bets. And then B, tell them about the podcast real quick.
Yeah, we know we got the podcast, the Wednesday Night War Room, what you're listening to right now. That's going to come to you in an audio-only format. We're going to cut out all the advertising that you're hearing right now. We're going to cut out all of the transitions and all of the things that have nothing to do with the content. And we condense that and make it an audio-only podcast. You can catch it everywhere you get your podcast. That is Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, and even SoundCloud. I'm actually behind, and work kind of, was beating me on my back this week. So that's why we need you all's help. Because if you want to get that content even quicker, you know what you got to do. Get us off these jobs. We don't want to work these day jobs. We have to work these day jobs. We got families, houses, kids. You think I want my son to starve to get you a podcast? No, that's not an option. But what you can do is share the podcast. You tell a friend, they tell a friend, and they go and tell a friend. Now we got more members, we got more subscribers, we'll get more eyeballs, we get bigger sponsors, and then we can get you the Wednesday Night War Room within a day on all the podcast apps. We can get you the Weekend Tailgate within a day on all the podcast apps. Hell, we'll even get you some other stuff, the live game day stuff. You want to hear that halftime rant on podcast? Of course you do. So continue to share it, continue to pump it for us. We appreciate all the support. Go check out the podcast wherever you get your podcast at.
Hey, listen, last but not least, I appreciate Christian joining us to talk about fall camp. We had another discussion about fall camp, Caesar and I did, with our guy, Chris Todd. So a building report coming back at you guys next week. A conversation with Chris Todd, former Auburn QB, who walked into a fall camp and won the job. So what these guys are trying to do, Chris did. He was gracious enough to give us about 30 minutes of his time to talk about what it's like going through a fall camp, trying to be the guy to start the season. Incredible conversation. You don't want to miss it. So insiders, Saturday, as always, you guys will get that segment. Everybody else next week.
Indeed. Let's pick up by talking about recruiting.
Yeah.
And recruiting has happened to pick up a little bit on the plains after much weeping and gnashing of teeth leading up to that point. Auburn is up to 11 commitments, and it started, believe it was it Trey first? Did Trey commit first, or was it
Yes.
Amari?
Yeah,
it was Trey. It was Trey. Well, let's start with Trey first. Trey Donaldson is actually a two-sport athlete out of Florida State University School, out of Tallahassee, Florida. 6'2", 188 pounds. He was the 45th recruit in the state of Florida. Florida actually has a lot of talent. He is a 4-star rated safety, 23rd rated safety in the country. Will initially play point guard for AU basketball. He chose Auburn over FSU, Florida, Ole Miss, and Louisville. So this was the first news of the day last week. I believe it was almost a week ago, last Thursday. Talk to us about Trey. He's supposed to be playing. I believe he's going to play basketball first for Bruce Pearl because I believe he's a 3-star rated point guard in basketball. So what is his plans, Christian? What is his plans with Auburn in terms of being a 2-sport athlete?
Yeah, so he is basketball first. To be honest, I personally don't really ever expect him to play football at Auburn just because I think it's a situation where, I mean, you never see it, and there's a reason why you never see it. It's physically impossible or nearly impossible for these players to be able to go through football practice, the football season, while balancing basketball practice and then going into the basketball season. So I personally don't see that happening. And I mean, he's so talented in both sports, but basketball is really, really where he excels. He might be a 3-star. Look, Bruce Pearl knows how to evaluate talent. They've had their eyes on this kid for a long time. He hasn't really played a lot of basketball. This summer was the first summer that he spent really focusing on basketball, and he shined. He played at the Peach Jam tournament. I believe it was the second game of the tournament. He actually tore his meniscus. He played through it. The last game of the tournament, he still scored 30 points on a torn meniscus. He's a very physical point guard, but he's also got good court vision. So they really, really like him in basketball.
Wow. So does he count? Does he count against our recruiting numbers? Seeing as though he's signed on to play basketball, like how does that affect Auburn from a recruiting number standpoint on the football side?
Yeah. So on the football side, I know on our site and some of the other sites that he is listed as a commit for football. I don't think his scholarship is initially going to count. He's going to take a basketball scholarship with the hopes of playing football down the line. So while Auburn technically has 11 commits in football right now, I personally just consider it 10 because I don't think he's going to be playing football at all his freshman year. Gotcha.
Well, let's move down the list of the next person who committed. Amari Kelly, 4-star wide receiver out of Hewitt-Trussville in Trussville, Alabama. 6'1", 175 pounds. He was the 13th ranked recruit in the state of Alabama. He is the 43rd overall receiver. Chose Auburn over Kentucky, Bama, and UCF. And of course, these numbers, these stats are courtesy of AuburnSports.com. That is Amari Kelly, who, as you stated, Christian, is the 10th commit, technically the 11th. But he's a bit of an interesting story because I remember hearing of him early on in the year. It is nothing after that. Granted, it was a dead period, so not much traction could be made, but it seems like things picked up with Big Cat Weekend with Amari Kelly. Talk about his recruitment and how did we get to this point with Amari being one of Auburn's receivers now coming in for the 2022 class?
Yeah, it was a little bit of an odd one where some of these other schools were looking at Omari as a DB. Auburn was still looking at him as a wide receiver. They picked up Jay Fair earlier on, and the initial plan was to only take 2 wide receivers. So they picked up Jay Fair, and they were waiting on Darius Clemons. Then they decided that they'd be willing to take 3, maybe even 4 wide receivers. So they started to kind of pick things up again with Omari. He was here in June. When the dead period ended, he camped and took an unofficial visit. Then, like you said, he was here for Big Cat Weekend. And that's when he said, Auburn has really started to push. They're kind of at the top in terms of schools pursuing me. So that ended up paying off. And Auburn was able to get him away from some other big schools like Alabama, Kentucky, and UCF. So I really like the addition of Amari Kelly. He is pretty big, 6'1", but he also still has really good speed as well. So he's kind of a do-it-all receiver. It's not like he does anything incredibly well, but he does everything pretty well, I would say.
Okay. So, and I believe it was at camp when he camped in June. That's where he picked up his offer, correct? From the staff?
Yes.
Okay.
Christian, I have a quick question about the mood of the recruits. I've said for a while, if you're a big time receiver, I don't know why you choose Auburn, given how we throw the ball over the years, right? It just seems like we've been struggling at developing that position. Are recruits getting a sense? Is there some sense of excitement around what's to come, or is it kind of like a wait and see what he puts on the field kind of deal? What are you guys seeing from the recruits in that respect?
Yeah, so I would say obviously the commits, like guys like Damari Alston that you see on Twitter every single day are really trying to get the hype up, which as a side note, he was a fantastic addition for Auburn's class. I think this staff struggled a little bit to build some of that momentum you were talking about. He's really brought it for Auburn. He's helped with getting some of these commitments. As for the guys that Auburn is still targeting right now, I think a lot of them do want to wait and see what kind of product Auburn puts out on the field this fall. Some of them like what they've heard. They like the ideas that this coaching staff has, but they're waiting to see a little bit in terms of what actually gets put on the field.
Could one of those guys be? And we'll start talking about some targets here. Could one of those guys be 4-star Darius Clemons out of Portland, Oregon? Who I think right now, is it between Auburn and Oregon now?
It's mostly between those two. Penn State is still in the mix. He has that top 3, but it really does feel like it's Auburn, Oregon. And right now I have Auburn on top for Darius Clemons. He's a guy, I believe Rivals has him as the number 12 wide receiver in the country. He'll be back for the Akron game. He took his official visit back in June. Now him and his family are coming back for the Akron game. I think that's huge for Auburn. Just the fact that they are able to get him all the way from Portland, Oregon, to fly down and come for another game. So I know this staff and all the other commits have really, really been putting the pressure on him. And so far it's really worked. I do think he wants to see the product that gets put on the field, but as of right now, I would put Auburn on top.
As a West Coast recruit, though, are you getting a sense that they're starting to really make a push for guys outside of the Southeast region? Is recruiting nationally becoming a focus for the staff?
I think so, yeah. You heard the coaches talk about, or Brian Harsin at least talk about it a little bit when he first got hired, that they want to go out and all around the country. And it's an advantage for them. This staff, or at least part of it, has experience specifically up in the Northwest at Boise State or just places all around the country. So why fight for a Darius Clemons? Let's say he was from Florida or something like that, and Florida's winning. Why fight for him there when you can go and find a guy at Oregon and say, hey, come down and play in the SEC, come play for Auburn football in front of 87,000 fans. And I personally think you have a much better chance at getting a 4-star recruit out of Oregon than you do out of Florida.
So we and by the way, Oregon has definitely they have a team of dogs as it pertains to the recruiting field. So for us to be able to pull him out of Oregon is impressive these days. We got a question here from Luke McDonald asking about Drew Bobo. What are your feelings about him? Because I believe he's supposed to be committing fairly soon. How's your feel on him? And I think that's a Georgia Auburn battle. So what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, it is Georgia Auburn, and this is another guy that I would lean Auburn right now. If you asked me that maybe a month ago, I'd probably say I'd lean Georgia, but Auburn has made a push there. He's playing offensive tackle for Auburn High School, but at the next level, he's probably an offensive guard, and this coaching staff and these commits have really kind of put the pressure on him, and so far it's worked. I don't have an exact recruiting timeline. He hasn't really given us any dates, but I would say probably within the next 4 to 6 weeks, he will be announcing his commitment. As of now, I would expect it to be to Auburn.
So speaking of offensive linemen, and I see people in the comments talking about tackles and how we need to get some guys along the line. Talk about Riley Quick, a 4-star offensive tackle out of Trussville, Alabama. Who is he committed to play baseball? Is he currently committed, or is he considering playing baseball at Alabama?
So I think he was considering it. From what I've heard, if he were to come to Auburn, he would be for football. He does play baseball right now. I think he's a football guy at the next level. He needs to put on a little bit more weight to play offensive tackle in the SEC, but that takes time, and he'll be able to do that. So this is a situation where Alabama's probably leading. I believe his brother. I think it's his brother plays at Alabama.
Yes.
So Alabama's probably leading there, but Auburn is really pushing for him, and they're pushing for a lot of different offensive tackles because, look, the previous coaching staff didn't leave them with really any of them that are suitable for the SEC. So they're going to try and get 3 or 4 offensive tackles in this class.
We got a comment here. Easton Harris mentioned, how are we not leading for Easton Harris? What's the scoop there?
So he's another guy that's playing at Auburn High this year. It seems like it almost feels like an anywhere but Auburn situation with him. It feels like he got the Alabama offer, but it wasn't really an offer that was committable. So he's been waiting on that. He really likes Florida State, but Florida State has a couple other offensive tackles committed already. I want to say they have 3, and they're leading for Elijah Pritchett, who would be number 4.
That one hurts, by the way.
Yeah, that's a tough one for Auburn. And then Florida got into the mix just in the middle of July or somewhere like that. So I don't know what it is, but it just feels like a situation where he wants to go anywhere but Auburn. He certainly could end up at Auburn. I know they're pushing for him very hard, and I think he's a talented offensive tackle, but it feels like an anywhere but Auburn situation with him.
So, like, I mean, did we forget his birthday, or what happened there?
I don't have a good feel for it. He has been on, he goes to Auburn High, so he's obviously been on Auburn's campus before.
Right.
I think he'll be back for what would be technically considered an official visit in the fall, even though he could be here any weekend. But it just doesn't really feel like a situation where he necessarily wants to come to Auburn.
Okay. All right.
Well, Auburn actually offered another offensive tackle, 4-star Malik Agbo. We talked about Darius Clemons out of Portland, Oregon. This guy is by way of Federal Way, Washington. Offensive tackle here. This is kind of a recent development. What can you tell us about this guy?
Yeah, so they have been talking to him for a little bit. So the offer is new, he has been in the mix for them a little bit, but at the same time, this is a 2022 kid. He already has his top 5 out. He's already got future casts to go and play at LSU, I believe. So I'm a little confused on the timing of this offer. It feels like a situation where they should have sent this out a couple months ago to really get in the mix. Mm-hmm. Now, with that being said, I do think they have at least a chance with him here. He does want to come down for an official visit this fall. So if he is able to make it down, that could be big for Auburn, but it just feels like they're a little late to the punch with Malik Agbo here. Agbo, I haven't been able to talk to him quite yet, so I don't know the exact pronunciation of his name, but it feels like they're just a little late here.
Is it one of those things? Do we know when this kid is committing?
He hasn't said when he's committing, to my knowledge. So they do have a little bit of time there. They do have some time, and they can make up some ground. But just for me personally, it just feels a little too slow of an offer. I don't know why they waited so long for it.
Gotcha. Well, we got 2 kids from Pike Road. Someone already in the comments have mentioned them. We'll start with the running back, 3-star running back Quinshawn Judkins. Of course, we know Auburn was able to get Damari Alston to commit at Big Cat Weekend. This is another guy who Auburn has been hot behind, heavy behind, pursuing him. What can you tell us about this kid?
Yeah, so Auburn is still pursuing him. He's taken his time with his recruitment a little bit, and I think it's a situation where now that Auburn does have their running back on the board in Damari Alston, not that they're not pushing for Judkins, but they're also taking their time a little bit with that second running back. They're waiting to see. I know they're evaluating some kids that are committed to other schools, one that's committed to West Virginia, one that's committed to Pitt. So they're kind of evaluating the situation there, seeing who they really want to pair with Damari Alston. It certainly could be Quinshawn Judkins, and personally, that's who I expect it to be once it's all said and done. But they're slow playing it a little bit, and I think he's slow playing it as well, just really waiting to see what he wants to do.
Who else is he considering?
He is considering just some of the other Southeastern schools. I couldn't name them quite off the top of my head. Drawing a blank a little bit here, but he's got some good offers, that's for sure.
Gotcha. Well, we're almost at the hour mark. so we can transition to this drawing for the mug. Mike G, how are we looking, man?
112 entries here. So big shout out to Christian for coming on to talk to us about recruiting tonight. In honor of his presence tonight, we are going to give away a free color changing mug. So 112 entries, hashtag get your weight up in the comments to get into this, and we're going to draw this tonight. This is one of my favorite things that we do. I love giving stuff away to our subscribers. Got 113, not bad.
I want to get to 125.
I mean, yeah,
if possible.
Our live numbers have been creeping up here, so we've been holding over 300 viewers tonight. I always like to try to get to 50%. If we can't do it, that's okay. Again, hashtag get your weight up. I've been getting the emails from you guys who are getting your War Report merch. They're making me happy. I read a few today. Thank you guys so much. Again, and shout out to our winners, our ticket winners as well too. So here we go. 116. I'm gonna let this roll. You guys know the drill. Got to be here to win. So we're gonna give you to the end of the broadcast to say something in the comments, or we got to redraw. Bam, let's roll it. Who's gonna be tonight? I'm feeling like it might be Corey. Is Corey here tonight?
He is not here.
Oh man, one night. Oh man, our guy.
And I've seen him comment today, tonight too. So
well, you got to comment right now. So comment for us, brother. Let us know
he
you're
said
here.
They aren't here, getting ready for them, and it's him.
I'm here. He says, I'm here. Listen,
there you go.
You know the drill. Business@thewarreport.com. Business@thewarreport.com. Email us your name and address, and we're going to get that right out to you. Now, for those of you who don't know, all we know on YouTube are YouTube handles. So if you go to the About section of our YouTube channel, there is a link to sign up for our email list where you can put in your name, email, and your YouTube handle. So we can match that up and know where to send you your stuff when you win it, just in case. So we want to be able to proactively reach out to you guys. That's one of the reasons why we say you have to be present here to win. But we don't currently have enough of your contact information to be able to proactively reach out even when you're not here. So sign up for our email list, and we'll give away even more stuff if we know how to reach it.
Well, let's get back to it. We got a few more names to discuss here. So let's talk about Curtis Perry. He's also of Pike Road out of Montgomery, Alabama. Defensive tackle, 4-star. This will be a big get, but this looks like an in-state or shaping up to be an in-state battle between Auburn and Alabama. At least I think so. Tell me something about Curtis Perry, because I wasn't sure if we were already. I'm not sure if we're in the running for him, but it seems like things are picking up with him. So what can you tell us about Curtis?
Yeah, this would be a massive get for Auburn. I think this would be. He might not be the best recruit in the class, but he would be the best get in terms of they would beat out Alabama, and then Ohio State is actually pushing very hard for him. You know, that'll be tough for Ohio State to pull him out of the state of Alabama, and that's where I think he'll end up staying. But this would be a huge get for Auburn. His junior year, he played at Park Crossing.
Pike Road, I think.
Yeah, he played there, and now he's transferred to a different school. He was an absolute animal last year. He had something like 20 sacks. Now that he's at his new school, I'm sure he'll continue to be very good. This is target number one for Auburn in terms of the defensive line. And Nick Easton has worked very, very hard to try and get him. Marcus Harris, the Kansas transfer, is actually pretty close with him. They're from the same area, so that helps out as well. I would hesitantly put Auburn in front, maybe like a 51%. Auburn is in front, Alabama 49, Ohio State is in the mix as well, obviously, but Auburn is making a surge with Curtis Perry, so I like where Auburn is standing as of right now.
I just hate these little battles with Alabama. They just make me I'm so jaded for the past several years where guys seem like they were just a lot for Auburn, and then, the business transaction happens, it seems.
Christian, what is your sense about how...
Sure.
What is your sense about how Easton is weighing in on these recruiting battles, especially for linemen. He's a high energy guy. He's got an NFL background. Is he making a difference, do you think, in trying to take back the state? Easton is going to make a difference in trying to get some of these guys away from Alabama?
I think he is going to make a massive difference. He might be the best hire out of Auburn staff, and it was kind of a blessing in disguise in terms of, they got Tracy Walker, and then he went to the Eagles, and they ended up with Nick Easton. Look, when we were in the complex in June a little bit, there was never a second this guy wasn't working. He would walk a defensive lineman out the door, walk out to their car with them. He'd walk back in. He was already on the phone talking to a different commit, or a recruit, I should say. He's never recruited before. That's not something he's done. He's never been a college coach. You would think he's been a college coach his entire life. He's incredible at it. The first weekend, this is going all the way back to June, of the official visits, Caleb Artis, a guy they were pushing for, he ended up staying up in the north and committed to Penn State. But when he was here for his official visit, it was his mom's birthday. They went out to dinner on that Saturday, and Nick Easton played the guitar for Caleb's mom. This is just a very personable guy with a lot of energy. I think he just understands it. He knows what it takes to get a kid and, have them excited about the Auburn program. So I think he can certainly make an impact within the state and just all the defensive line targets that they're going after.
He played the guitar for a recruit's mom?
He did, yes.
Okay, all right, cool.
I already know where you're going.
Look, baby.
I already know where you're going. He's gonna be a stepdad.
2 for 1, baby. So Todd is screaming Iverson hooks. What can you tell us about this guy? Is there interest from the Auburn coaching staff in this kid? I think he's a 3-star athlete from the same area. Know anything about
Iverson
this guy?
Hooks, I couldn't say I know a whole lot about him. I haven't really heard his name thrown out there from people close to the program and people within recruiting. It could be a situation where, coaches, well, especially this staff, they weren't down here, but coaches weren't able to see players in person last year. So some people kind of got lost in the mix a little bit. Maybe if he does have a standout senior season, Auburn's coaches will already be there looking at Curtis Perry and looking at some of these other guys. So maybe Auburn will target him. I haven't really heard too much about him.
What can you tell me about some of the guys we have currently committed to Auburn? Holden, do you see him potentially getting a 4th star? I know people were big on him early in this year, right before he committed to Auburn. There was actually some other schools that he had garnered some interest from. Is it a possibility he can get a 4th star on Rivals?
I think he's going to need a very good senior season in order to do that. He was at the Elite 11 camp over the summer, and from what I heard, he obviously was not. They have 20 quarterbacks there. He was not approaching the top 11. He had some issues that were not quite as good as some of the other quarterbacks. So I think he's going to really need to show off and have a good senior season. I know some of the other sites like 247 have him as a 4-star as of right now, and we do still have him as a 3-star. That 4-star status is certainly attainable, and it could definitely happen, but he's going to need to have a good senior season in order to get that.
Gotcha. Was there any other recruiting news or any secrets, anything that Auburn fans need to be aware of, or have we covered the majority of them? Is there any other targets out there that we need to keep an eye on?
I think we've covered most of the targets that are going to be within the next month or two that Auburn is really pretty high on and looking at. Basketball wise, real quick, there are some guys that Auburn really likes. They're still waiting on Zion Cruz. I know people are waiting and hopeful that Auburn gets him. Look, if Auburn wants him, they have him. I will say that. Auburn currently is not in a situation where they want to take him at the moment. They're looking at some other guys. They really like Jaris Walker. I believe he's the number 13 player in the class in Rivals. He's built like Zion Williamson. I mean, he has incredible size and physicality as a power forward. They view him as kind of a Jabari Smith replacement, because Jabari is he's only going to be here 1 year, but they've got a lot of talented guys over there in basketball that they're recruiting, and they've got a good chance at most of them, which is credit to Bruce Pearl and his staff for really turning the program the way they have.
do you get a sense whether the program is? Do they feel like they are in a good spot to fill their needs at certain positions? Right, like I mean, we're going to have some attrition in offensive line after this year. There's going to be, but we're young at a lot of positions. What's the focus? What's the recruiting focus in terms of position groups for the staff?
Yeah, position groups. I would say the offensive line is certainly a huge one. Defensively, they're going to need to start getting some defensive backs because Roger McCreary is going to be gone soon. Smoke Monday will be gone soon. Drayshawn Miller is probably only going to be here for a year.
Knighton.
So by Darius Knighton as well. Yep. So they're going to have, they do have some young talent in the secondary, but they need to go out and get some more of that. So I would look at the secondary, and I would certainly look at the offensive line, and especially at offensive tackle. Like I said, I think they want 3 to 4 guys that can play offensive tackle in this class.
Let me ask you a question. I've always wondered, and you spoke on it a little bit with Nick Easton. He seems to be the guy as a person that's winning these battles for us with Marcus Harris, Tony Fair, Caden Story. It seems to be doing a lot of work that we have a guy that is young enough to relate to these guys, has coached in the NFL, played in the NFL. So I think we have a similar guy in Coach Korn for the wide receivers, which is why we're seeing wide receivers pick up the way we are, even though the offense hasn't quite shown exactly what it wants to be quite yet. Do you think that Coach Korn can have the type of effect at wide receiver that Coach Easton seems to be having on the defensive line?
Yeah, I think he absolutely can. I think Coach Korn is, maybe a little bit more quiet, a little more reserved than Nick Easton, but when he's talking with these kids, he does a fantastic job of talking with them, being real personal with them. All of the wide receiver recruits that I've talked to, the guys that have gone elsewhere, the guys that have committed to Auburn, they really, really, really like Coach Korn, and they enjoy just talking to him. So I definitely like Coach Korn as a guy on the offensive side that can bring in some good recruits.
What are your thoughts about Zach Etheridge and kind of the job he's been doing since he's been in Auburn on the recruiting trail, as well as just making an impact on the kids, kind of like what Nick Easton has done?
Yeah, Zach Etheridge, I would almost view him as the defensive Coach Korn. He's a little more quiet, but he has the experience at Auburn. He can talk about what it's like to be at Auburn, what it's like to go and try and play at the next level. So I like Zach Etheridge, and I really like pairing him with Derek Mason, recruiting those guys in the secondary. I think that's a fantastic pairing as recruiters for the secondary.
Do the recruits who do you think the best recruiter on this defensive staff is? I know we talked about Easton, but Mason, has got his ways with some of these guys. Who's the best recruiter of the group?
Yeah, so I would probably put Derek Mason at the top. If I would exclude Derek Mason just because he's the defensive coordinator, I would say it's Nick Easton. I do like Burt Watts. I like Zach Etheridge. I'm not quite sure yet on Jeff Schmedding, but I would probably say Derek Mason. And then if you're just looking at the assistant coaches, I would look at Nick Easton.
All right, Chris, let me ask you this. Over or under 2 years of Derek Mason as the DC?
I would probably go over, but that's a situation where, he might just be here for 3 years and then head out. He's going to get an opportunity elsewhere to be a head coach again. I think everybody knows that. And the clock is just ticking on when that opportunity will come and how long he actually stays at Auburn. I will say over for 2 years, but I don't feel super confident in that answer.
Yeah, yes. It's
too,
all right. I mean,
he's too freaking.
I think it's 2 at the most, honestly. I'm with you.
He's too freaking likable and knowledgeable, man. He has a good year. I see him taking off. Mike, you got something?
Yeah, and this defense, I've been trying to tell you guys, is going to be all-time great. They have a chance. Hear me out. They have a chance to be the best in the country. I'm talking about third down defense. I'm talking about sacks. I'm talking about pick sixes. I'm talking about everything. Christian, I'm wearing this is my sunshine pump moment.
I'm blind.
I can't put on some shades. But I'm just trying to tell you guys this: if the D line can get pressure on the quarterback, these defensive backs are going to eat. It's going to be nasty. right? And if you just should so happen to make it to the second level, we got the best tacklers in the SEC waiting on you. Good luck. The only thing I think that will beat this defense is losing the field position battle and the time of possession battle. That's what beats them. So with Derek Mason, our D coordinator, Nick Easton just making waves on that defensive line. Watch out, man. And if you missed it on our facts or no, 5 shutouts. Akron will not score a point week 1. I don't care how bad the offense is. Akron doesn't score a point in week 1. Take it to the bank.
All right. Not even garbage time.
No, nothing. Because at the 2 deep, we're nasty too. It's insane. I mean, listen, hear me out though.
Put your shades back on. Put your shades back on.
My bad, all right.
Put your shades back on. Don't you're not allowed to say this.
All right.
Now talk.
Okay. It didn't matter for this in these scrimmages. It didn't matter who they sent out there. Think about how many different guys we heard about getting picks. A lot of it were for guys who not even starting. I think Ro Torrance got one. Like, this defense is going to surprise some people this year. And I don't know why more people aren't talking about it, but I'm going to talk about it so I can come back and say, I told you guys so a month into the season when we've allowed less than 14 points on offense through 4 games.
Points?
Through 4 games.
Total points. Not less than 14
man.
per game.
And if for some reason we figure it out offensively, it's over. It is over. Now, that's more of a stretch to me. But I just think it's going to be good, man. I want to be so excited about what they're doing offensively. And so I'll take these off to ask Christian another question. Christian, in terms of in the second scrimmage, there was some discrepancy about, because I heard Harsin say that Bo was running with the Blues, but what was being reported to me was that TJ was the first quarterback on the field in that second scrimmage, running with I think it was Capers, Malcolm Johnson, and Demetrius Robertson. So it seemed like they were trying to do some different things with the wide receiver combinations. Has there been any wide receiver, quarterback to wide receiver connection that has stood out so far this fall camp?
I guess if I had to say one, I would probably say it's been Bo Nix and Demetrius Robertson, the transfer out of Georgia. No wide receiver has really, really stood out. It would be Demetrius if I had to pick someone. That's a little concerning to hear from Auburn's perspective, but no one has really taken that next step forward. I think they're all very, very talented. Elijah Canyon, Kobe Hudson, Xavier Capers, all those guys, and there's even some more. They're all really talented, but no one has quite taken that next step forward. And part of that is they're very young. The other part of that is they're running an actual offense now. They have actual routes that they have to run. They have to learn a lot more compared to the old, very, very simple system. So I think it's fair that these receivers are still a little bit behind. I have heard they've improved a little bit, but no one outside of Demetrius Robertson has really taken a step forward.
Wow. What about what have you heard about the freshman Tavares Dawson? Did I say that right?
Yeah. He's actually, they really, really like him as a deep threat. He's a little small, so they like him in the slot and using him, maybe inside a little bit and then running down the field. He's also extremely fast. So they do like him, and I would expect him to see the field a little bit this year.
I'm hearing people compare him to Jalen Waddle a little bit in terms of speed and overall playmaking ability. Would you say that's accurate?
I don't know if I would quite go Jalen Waddle. I don't know if he does have that speed. I don't know if he has the physicalness that Jalen Waddle has. I think that was a little underrated in Jalen Waddle's game. He really could go up and get the ball. I don't know how much Tavares Dawson can do that, but he does have elite speed. He's pretty shifty. If I had to compare him to a former Auburn player, I would almost maybe compare him to like Ryan Davis. He's pretty fast. He's pretty shifty. So I think this coaching staff really likes what they've got there with Tavares.
So when you say he's fast, are we talking about quick or is he a burner? Because Ryan Davis, you could run down in the open field.
Yeah, I would say he's more of a burner.
Okay.
He will get past the defensive backs. He will find a way to get past them. Ryan Davis comparison more so just comes from, I think he can shift back and forth a little bit, but he is faster than Ryan Davis.
Cool. So outside of Demetrius Robertson, then who's the next wide receiver you think in line? I know you said not a whole lot of significant moves have been made, but who's your next guy up after that?
I would probably look at Elijah Canyon. He was the guy that he had that standout bowl game, and then he stood out in the spring and then in the A-Day game. And he's probably been the best out of that crew. He hasn't really stood out. You know, it's minuscule. It's just a little bit. He's taken a little bit more than those other guys. They're all very close, but I would probably look at Elijah Canyon as that number 2 behind Demetrius.
Now, is he okay? I know I think he got injured after the first scrimmage. Is any truth to that, or is he good to go?
I believe he is still a little banged up. So right now they're working with some other guys. They're working with Xavion Capers, looking at Javarius Johnson a little bit, Malcolm Johnson, even Shedrick Jackson is getting in the mix a little bit. So I believe Elijah is still a little bit banged up, but should be getting better soon here.
It's funny. People have made note of what your comments. They're running an actual offense now.
The system. Christian, I have so many questions for you, man. In terms of the system, I know we've been hearing things about them starting to pick it up, but what is your sense about, if you had to rate it 1 to 10, how well are these guys picking up Brian Harsin's system?
I'll go with like 6.5. I don't think they've fully gotten it yet. And I would say maybe 7 is they've fully gotten it. And then from 7 on, they're really excelling in it. I don't think they've fully gotten it yet, but they're starting to get there now.
Okay. All right. So wait, let me ask you something before we get to, I want to get some personal opinion here. All right. Because I know you're a sports writer and you guys are supposed to stay objective. All right. So I'm not going to ask you anything that have fans at your neck. But what I do want to know is, of all the games on Auburn's schedule this season, which one do you think we could win that nobody would really pick us to win?
I would probably say, I'm deciding between 2 here. I'm deciding between the LSU game and I'm deciding between the Alabama game. There's something there's just something about a home Iron Bowl where it's Brian Harsin's first shot at it. Fans are back in the stands. There's something about it in an Alabama situation where they do have a new quarterback. Obviously, they still have an incredible amount of talent over there, but they do have a new quarterback. So deciding between those 2, I think more people would give Auburn a chance in the LSU game, even though they have been horrendous playing at LSU. This is a new coaching staff, though. So more likely situation for me would be the LSU game, that Auburn can go to LSU and win that game. But I do kind of very, very small. I like Auburn's chances a little bit in that Iron Bowl this year.
I like that. So, Christian,
I am with you. I agree with
you.
It's
tough when you're talking about the Iron Bowl. But if there was any year they're going to do it, this would be a prime year because they're starting a new quarterback, and I know everybody's high on them, and they haven't really busted at quarterback in quite a while. But there's some new things happening there, and with our all-time great defense that we're going to field this year, they've got a shot, right? So I have a question for you, just kind of going back to, as the season rounds in and we're getting close, we have not, Harsin said if the season started tomorrow, Bo would start, but that's not exactly saying that's my guy, right? So I got to get you on record, Christian. Does Bo finish the season as Auburn's starting quarterback, or how do you feel about this?
I personally think Bo starts and finishes the season as a starting quarterback. It could be a situation where there's a game or 2 in there that TJ ends up starting, maybe like an Arkansas game or Ole Miss or whatever. But like I mentioned earlier, I just do not think TJ Finley can survive behind this offensive line.
That's fair.
I really like TJ Finley, and these coaches really like him. He's perfect for their system. The problem is the old staff did not leave them good enough talent at the offensive line position to be able to run the system that they want to, at least right away.
Do you think that Demetrius Davis redshirts, or because of that, he actually gets an opportunity to get some action as a backup? Should they need a change of pace QB?
You know, I think he'll probably end up redshirting. It could be a situation. It is very possible, though, where, you know, Bo struggles. They go to TJ. He dies behind that offensive line. And then they go to Demetrius to try and mix things up a little bit. So he certainly could end up playing out the season, at least getting a look at starting quarterback. But I personally don't really expect it.
Yeah, I think the only thing that saves Finley behind that line are quick releases.
It'll be heavy run.
Yeah,
they'll rerun heavy with him and then play action to keep the defense honest.
Right. Yeah. The DB, the wide receivers are going to have to win their matchups quickly.
Yeah.
And, you know, the timing and the chemistry is going to have to be really good for him to survive behind this offensive line if they don't take steps forward, I think. So I agree with you 100%. I think that's what keeps Finley off the field, unless it's an emergency. You know, give Bo that. Listen, he can extend a play. What we want for him is for his decision making to get better after he extends. And if he can do that, I think that Bo has a fantastic season.
Yeah,
right?
No, I agree with that completely. I mean, I've always been not necessarily a Bo defender, but I think Bo has been dealt a little bit of a bad hand at Auburn between the offensive line, the development of quarterbacks from the previous staff and whatnot.
100%.
If Bo can just he just needs to make some minimal improvements that'll really help his game. So, and that's all that coaching staff really wants out of him. They want to be a run-first offense. So if he can just do a couple more of the small things right, I think Auburn will be good.
I think I compared him to Kellen Mond's 2020 season. Like, that's what we need. We kind of maligned Kellen Mond for every year he was the A&M starter, and then he surprised the heck out of me last year. And I think that's kind of what we need from Bo. We're going to have the solid defense, we think. We got the running back, we think. We got an offensive line that can run block well enough to get that outstanding back some yards. You just have to make the throws when they're there and don't give it away. Is that a fair enough assessment?
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. I haven't really heard the Kellen Mond comparison, but that's a fantastic comparison for his Kellen Mond's last year. That's a fantastic comparison.
Thank you. I got a compliment. Thank you. Our comparison were as good as mine.
Oh my goodness! Yeah,
Mike, you got anything else, man?
Yeah, go watch For the Record tomorrow, because everything that we're saying about quarterbacks and Kellen Mond, we covered all that. It was a fantastic segment that we did, just talking about everything quarterback in the SEC and what we can look forward to. So, you know, if you're an insider, you are going to get that segment tomorrow. We gave you guys a little bit of a tease. We released some For the Record, our very first For the Record, for everybody to kind of watch as the season rounds in and that information becomes more irrelevant. So if you missed the sneak peeks that we gave you guys, you have another opportunity to go back and watch that For the Record. We talked about recruiting spend, Christian, and how we've been outspent 2-1 by our rivals in the conference. I think Auburn $900,000 in 2019, 2.8 and 2.6 by Bama and Georgia. I mean, they're just covering more ground than we are, so they're spending more money. And these For the Records have been some really, while we're doing it, I'm shocked. Sometimes I'll do this. I'll bounce it over to Isaac to do the graphics for me, and he cannot believe the stats that he's looking at sometimes. So call and be like, man, I had no idea Kellen Mond was that good last year.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And again, when you look at the advanced statistics, you see why he got drafted. And right. I think B's on target. I think that if we get that sort of season from Bo, midseason we'll be sitting here talking playoff. I do believe, because that's how good our defense is going to be.
Playoffs.
Yeah, I think we'll be sitting here talking playoffs. So become an insider so you could catch that For the Record, $5.99. We've had a bunch of signups tonight. I am completely humbled and grateful for you guys who have been supporting our community by getting these insider memberships. It gets us one step closer to being where we want to be, giving you guys Auburn content really 7 days a week. So we're doing it 4 to 5 right now, but we want to add some days to that week for you guys. So Betting with B Will, our game day experience, the Monday film reviews, which are going to be fun, really fun to go through, look at the film with you guys after the fact. That's something that's going to definitely be insider only. We will 100% not release that at any point to anyone who's not an insider. So you got to become an insider to get part of that segment. Along with that, listen, we're giving away tickets to the ASU game. You still have a chance. If you get an insider membership by this coming Sunday, you will be in the running for these ASU tickets on Wednesday when we announce the winner. So get your insider membership. That's the only way to enter this drawing. Insiders get 3 entries into the drawing, and supporters do get 2 entries. So I lied. It's not just insiders, but just any membership. Any membership to our channel will enter you in, and it's not just to win tickets, but to really just become another level in our community. This is a fantastic community. I love the love that gets shared. I love the debates in our comment section. They are 95% just respectful back and forth where we learn from each other, and we're eliminating echo chambers here at the War Report. So I appreciate everybody who has decided to be a part of that. The other thing about community is we're supporting the community by raising money for the Lee County Humane Society. Please, 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 I can't stress enough, we love super chats. 45 cents on every dollar of your super chat goes to YouTube. So we did this because if we were going to give away half of everything that you guys donate, we want to give it to a good cause. I can speak from a personal standpoint about how rescue animals have literally saved my life. We want to help other people find that joy. You guys have been sending me pictures of your rescue animals. I love it. Keep those pictures coming. We're going to do a photo montage at the end of the year of everybody's animals in something that we're doing for the Lee County Humane Society. So you can find this link in the About section of our YouTube channel. I pinned it to the top of the live chat, so you still have time to go there and donate. We appreciate that. Our merch store is live. You can get your War Report gear there. And shout out to our sponsor, BUSR. We've got a segment called Betting with B Will. This is B Will teaching everybody how to read lines and responsibly gamble. So shout out to BUSR for coming on as a sponsor and a partner. You can you see the links on the graphic, but you can find this in the About section of our YouTube channel as well, and in the description on every video. So go through this link to sign up so that they know that you came from the War Report. That will help us out. And then Monday we have our Building Rapport is back. Now we were doing these every Monday for like 6 months, and then we started to shift our attention to in-season content, but we're still going to be bringing you guys Building Reports from time to time. This is going to be Chris's 3rd time with us. He did a Chop It Up with a Pro. He did a Building Rapport. Just a fantastic conversation with a former Auburn quarterback that came in and won a starting job in 8 practices off a shoulder surgery. No spring, no summer. And he's going to talk to you guys about what you got to do to win a job under those circumstances. And during the season, it might help a lot of us make sense in terms of what we're seeing at quarterback from the coach's perspective. So shout out to Chris Todd for coming on. Last but not least, B, tell them about the podcast.
We're going to take this Wednesday night war room and we're going to get it up for you, I promise, by Saturday morning. So on this, Saturday would actually be the first football game day of the season. There's actually a Power 5 game on Saturday, if I'm not mistaken. But we're going to get this show posted by Saturday morning. Again, please be patient with me. I am the person who's tasked with taking all this content and turning it into a podcast. So I do it as quickly as I can. Get us off these jobs. Get us off these day jobs. We don't want to keep working these day jobs. They're all right. Some are better than others. But we'd rather do this full time, all the time, because it's fun and we like making content and getting you guys content. So continue to subscribe and support. If you enjoy the podcast, go there, leave a review. Those reviews do a lot. When they see people having positive things to say about the content, people are more likely to listen and subscribe to it. So thank you for your support. You can go wherever you get your podcast, and this Wednesday Night War Room will be there by Saturday morning. Thank you.
Thanks, B. Listen, I want to just let everybody know that this defense is going to be all-time great this season. They're going to be the best defense that you've ever seen at Auburn. Just needed to say that one more time before the end of the show. So just so everybody knows where I stand on the defense. Facts and all just dropped. We dropped an interesting facts and all for our insiders today. I see the comments coming in on that already. So lots of great content coming. The podcast is starting to pick up steam. Brian's doing a lot of really hard work on that for you guys. And we're just excited to be here. Shout out to Auburn Sports for sponsoring this segment, and Christian for coming on to keep us up to date on recruiting. Christian, I can't tell you, it's so hard to keep up with what these 18-year-olds are thinking. So we appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for coming on and sharing your knowledge as well, man. We definitely appreciate it. And guys, we appreciate you for definitely hanging out with us, spending time on your Wednesday night with us to just talk Auburn football, hang out with the community. And if you believe in this community, guys, please do us a favor and share this video. We're nearing football season, 10 days out, and people are searching high and low for Auburn content. So, guys, be the source of information for them and share this video so they'll know that we have great content out here leading into the football season. Be sure to use hashtag Get Your Weight Up. Guys, like this video. Please be sure to smash this like on the video on the way out. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. If you're on social media, particularly Instagram and Twitter, you can find us at The War Rapport. And if you like the TikTok and you've been watching these crate challenges and you want to take some time to check us out there, be sure to hit us at TW Rapport. That's it for now, guys. Be sure to have a great week. We will see you on the weekend tailgate. But until then, and as always, War Eagle.
War Eagle.
War Eagle.